All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. This is Left Bank Books virtual celebrity storytime with internationally known visual artist and illustrator residing here in St. Louis, Cbabi Bayoc. And I will say, also, New York Times best-selling illustrator. Left Bank Books is St. Louis's oldest independent bookstore. We would like to thank all of our supporters, the supporters of Cbabi Bayoc, and everyone for their outpouring of love for our bookstore. Left Bank Books offers in-store shopping, curbside pickup, and delivery to anywhere in the world. We are happy to be able to bring our event series virtual. We believe that events are a way to expand your mind and bring in new thoughts to make the world a better place. We hope that you enjoy this event, and we hope that you support Left Bank Books by purchasing a signed copy for you or for your friends on our website, left-bank.com. Purchasing a copy of the book from Left Bank Books allows us to keep our bookstore and staff operating, and it allows us to continue bringing you incredible authors and illustrators into the virtual world, into the real world, and we want to thank you all so much for your support. I'm Shane Mullen. I'm the event coordinator for Left Bank Books. I am also working today with the incredible Cliff Helm, who is our children's specialist and children's event coordinator. We produce hundreds of author events each year with a fantastic team here in St. Louis. For you, the virtual audience, we will be taking questions at the end of the event. So you can type your questions as a comment. And you can do that at any point in time. So when you think of a question, go ahead and type it in, and we will incorporate it into the conversation. And be sure to follow Left Bank Books on Facebook and YouTube to be notified about all of our fantastic virtual events. We have a lot of events in person planned. We also have a lot of hybrid events planned and some virtual events. Definitely be sure to check out our event calendar on our website for full details about our upcoming event programming. But now, about today's book, Goodnight Racism. National Book Award-winning and New York Times bestselling author Ibram X. Kendi, How to Be an Antiracist and Antiracist Baby, returns with a new picture book that serves as a modern bedtime classic. As children all over the world get ready for bed, the moon watches over them. The moon knows that we need sleep, that when we sleep, we dream. And when we dream, we imagine what is possible and what the world can be. With dynamic, imaginative art and poetic prose, Goodnight Racism delivers important messages about anti-racism, justice, and equality in an easy-to-read format that empowers readers both big and small. Goodnight Racism gives children the language to dream of a better world and is the perfect book to add to their social justice toolkit. And about our incredible speaker that we have here with us today. Cbabi Bayoc is an internationally known visual artist and illustrator residing in St. Louis, Missouri. His subjects include family, children, music, and a bunch of other cool stuff designed with line, bold color, and funk. Cbabi spends his time working on a variety of projects including portraits, community murals, school murals, and children's book illustrations. Learn more at his website, cbabibayoc.com, or follow him on Instagram at Cbabi, Cbabi. And now I am so incredibly thrilled and honored to welcome our fantastic guest for today. We have Cbabi Bayoc, and I'm also going to welcome Cliff Helm as well. Good morning, everyone.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, thanks so much for doing this. I greatly appreciate it. We love this book. We love to support local authors and illustrators, and yeah, it's great when we have homegrown talent make it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I want to say thank you for even inviting me to do this. It's been a crazy 2 weeks. Been a crazy 8 months. So yeah. So I figured before Cliff reads the book for us, and then I'll explain how some of these pages happen. I'll just give a little rundown on how we got here. Of course, there are other ways that this happened that I'm not sure of, but the little that I do know. So I've been illustrating, I've been painting for 27 years. I'd like to say shout out to not just St. Louis, but, with the book having hit New York Times bestseller, I guess that means I have to say, you know, thank you everybody from wherever you want to book, especially small, independently owned bookstores like yourself, and I mean small respectively. But yeah, I just think this is really a dope time, and a lot of people in St. Louis and around know that this is a 10-year anniversary of 365 Days with Dad. And reason I bring that up is because when I did the project initially, I talked to myself and sometimes, you know, Amber and others about how it kind of came and went. Didn't really see any party or fanfare, but I think it's kind of pretty dope that here on the 10-year anniversary, that this book came out and the way that it's being received. And the reason mentioning that is because one of the things in the original email that I got that there was even interest in me illustrating this book is because Penguin, Kokila, you know, and Ibram, they felt that the energy of 365 Days with Dad fit with the vibe that they wanted for this book. And so I wanted to put that out there because I think even I'm guilty of this too. We never know who's watching us and who's responding and who's seeing things, because in the times we're in, we usually just go by what we get as immediate gratification in social media, and we don't realize that there are a lot of people see and know what we're doing and just don't say anything to us. Like, but they're watching and they're recognizing. So that was definitely a confirmation for me. So I think that was pretty dope. And also, for many years of my career, especially in the later years, as my style continues to develop the way it is, you know, folks have hounded me forever to do children's books. And I did a few, but I've never really enjoyed the process because, one, it's long, and two, I've been often approached by individuals who happen to write a book and are looking for an illustrator, and they just didn't get the whole why you need to charge a certain amount because they didn't realize how much work went into it. And I can tell you this book in particular, like between the time that the email came and when I was actually asked to work on it, if you look at how many words are actually in the book, it still took between 6 months and a year for them to finish editing. Like, they were so meticulous about the words, not just being clear and concise for children, but also just to be just enough to hit the point. And yeah, with that being said, like, to say yes, to see Ibram's name, I mean, what else do you need to say? This is just pretty awesome. So
yeah, exactly. It's a culmination of almost 3 decades of effort. It's great, and it's well deserved. My goodness.
Yeah. So needless to say, this has definitely reignited my interest in doing books. I've been approached by several publishers that were interested in, you know, doing author illustrator collabs. So hopefully that's just a sign that at some point that'll happen, because I do look forward to working on some books of my own, and, you know, and also illustrating for more people whose message aligns with what I want to do with my own art. Yeah. So Cliff, you're gonna do us the honors of reading this book, and then I'll take forward the spreads and explain a little bit on how this book even happened.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excellent. Are we all ready?
Yep. I'm going to make Cliff full screen so that everyone can see the beautiful illustrations.
Yes. Yeah, you did a fantastic job. Excellent. Here we are. Goodnight Racism by Ibram X. Kendi and illustrated by the wonderful Cbabi Bayoc. Goodnight Racism. Outside the window, peeking down from the night sky, the moon watches over us. She sees smiling kids at dinner tables and yawning in their beds. But some kids do not have food. They do not have beds because of unfair rules and unjust treatment. The moon sees all kids, whoever they are, wherever they are, and shines her light on them. The moon wants her light to kiss every child goodnight. The moon delights when every child falls asleep. Because the moon knows when we sleep, we dream. When we dream, we imagine what is possible, what the world can be. And the moon glows a little brighter, whispering, dream, my child. Imagine, my child. A new world, a new future awaits. A world where all people are safe, no matter how they look, how they worship, or how they love. A world where all kids have the same chance to have peace, to have joy, to have a childhood. A world where all people breathe fresh air and have what they need to feed their minds and bodies. A world where our rules open doors, open minds, and create equity and justice for all. Dream, my child. Create, my child. A new world, a new future awaits. Good night, unfair rules. Good night, cruelty. Good night, injustice. Good night, inequality. Good night, hate. Good night, hurt. Good night, racism. Good night. The end. That's great. It's poetic. The illustrations are lovely. And I will at some point ask you what your favorite spread is.
Okay. I'll be here for it.
Excellent.
So yeah, if you can imagine getting, okay, so in the beginning, I found out about the book. I don't think the very first email gave me the title, but naturally once I saw Goodnight Racism and I already knew about Ibram X Kendi, it kind of was like mind blowing because I'm like, whoa, like what Goodnight Racism? Like how on earth is this going to happen as a children's book? Because at first my brain went to, it's political, all this, but then I had to dial back a little bit because it brought on a lot of anxiety. Just thinking about the controversy around him and his work, and what would just being transparent. What does that fit with me? Like, because I don't feel like I'm controversial, and am I right fit? And just feeling all these things. But reading the book more and going back and forth with Penguin, and well, I guess I didn't go back and forth with Penguin, but the design team, and just talking about how they want this book to be inspirational. That was a switch because it went from, okay, this doesn't have to be heavy. This is something for children to see. And again, this is just the words. So I had different iterations of how each page would look in my mind. But it's a trip, as we go over different spreads, as I think back how some of these happen, because when I think of my work, sometimes I'll have the idea in my mind, but then I'll stay open to my surroundings as I drive, just knowing that at some point something might hit me that be like, okay, that's what's going to work. And so I got some in particular in the spreads that we're going to share. I don't want to share the whole book because hopefully everybody already has the book. And then also hopefully that if you haven't gotten it yet, this will inspire you to go out and get it. Because I'm really proud of this book and how it's happened. So that we definitely get you guys asking questions and just, it's not just be me talking to you and we go back and forth because people usually have some great questions. If we can dive into some of these illustrations and talk about it. And so here we are. What is this? This is a very historic day. So this is definitely a very befitting image to put up first. I think kids are seeing a lot going on and they're probably asking questions, but what's happening around the country and their cities. And I want to say with this one here, when we first got to this page, and a lot of them, they had their own interpretation of what happened. So a world where our rules open doors, open minds, and create equity and justice for all. Dream, my child. Throughout the book, I had to think about where you would see somebody sleeping and where you would just see what it is that they were dreaming of and what was happening that day. And so this is a page where between myself and the designer, we decided to keep the idea of somebody sleeping. And so I thought about it in terms of the young lady and the pig I put in there. That's because I was crocheting during the pandemic, and that's actually a little pig that I made in my downtime, if you will. So, but I thought about the little girl sleeping and not just dreaming of, but also she just being exhausted from it, having been out with her friends, that day or that week. And so she's holding a sign while she sleeps. And of course, there's always the factor of making sure that there are several types of children represented in the illustration. So that's something I had to remember all throughout. And then also how much information in the background, like not necessarily a specific city scene. So that was intentional, that the landscape was blurred out. But just thinking about some of the things that, we've just dealt with. We've dealt with, native land and the whole water crisis and just children having a voice. Of course, the whole wall issue, but more importantly, just letting children know that they have a voice and that we hear them and we see them. So we are the future. Being upfront was definitely a choice of mine. I'm glad they kept it like that because they had the opportunity to move any words as they wished. But I really like how this spread worked out. And so, yeah, this is one that I'm proud of. Still not going to say which one's my favorite, but this is definitely one that I really enjoy. And so this one was very interesting because we were talking about inclusion. We're talking about everybody being seen. And so the words are very specific. And there are only 7 words. She sees kids smiling at dinner tables. So the first block I had to get over is, where's the moon? Is the moon seen? Does that mean everybody's eating at nighttime? Like, all this is going through my head in the very beginning. So I have to let all these thoughts rush in and then just start swatting them away, like what doesn't make sense and what's not necessary. And then you narrow down. And then from there, I also thought, okay, even though it says she sees smiling at dinner tables, I know everybody doesn't eat at the dinner table. And being conscious of who gets more attention than not, and not that, and I guess I have to be honest, at first this is coming from being here in the States. And not that anything about this book said, this is Goodnight Racism, the moon over the children sees in the US. But I did think about, okay, so we're talking to children here, like there are children from all cultures and everybody doesn't eat the same, whether it be chopsticks, be pizza, if you will. So I pushed on and I didn't even say anything. I just did it, but I created the spread kind of the way you see it, with the Muslim family on the left eating. And I was careful to go, Pinterest and Google to look up imagery to come up with an idea what a spread might look like, and even the hands. And so give you an idea of the background and how this worked. Like, even though I came up with the illustration, it was put on the shelf, if you will, until everybody was comfortable. Even this is all past gone. This all had to go through Ibram as well, and it's to feel that we were being consistent and being considerate of culture and making sure that the hand gestures are right and that whole nine. So yeah, I love this one just because one it's hitting on different ways in which people celebrate and have dinner. Some people pray, some people dive right in. You got grandpa who's being a little sneaky with his grandchild, grandma acting like grandma and seeing it, just wanted to have fun with that. And little girl, people praying, but everybody's eyes aren't closed. So I just like how this whole spread worked out. And my 17-year-old now, at some point, was pretty sure he was going to have a pizza business. He's far past, he has no interest now at this time, but that top left corner, the little girl eating pizza, that B Soul Pizza, that's my son. Barago Soul is his middle name. So, and it's also funny because my daughter saw this and she mentioned that now she knows who's my favorite child. Because she swears it's her, you know. So, but again, that will never be disclosed. You know? So this was a very fun one to work on too. This one we went back and forth on a little bit just to make sure that we were hitting on things. But yeah, I like how that worked out. This one was a tough one because we're not trying to scare children. We're not trying to make it heavy. So how do you approach illustrations that talk about children not having enough food or somewhere to sleep? I think some of the early sketches that I submitted, I actually had a child sleeping outside under a streetlight. And they were like, okay, how about we do maybe a blanket in the backyard? So I was like, okay, so that could be an option. And I can't remember if they brought it up or if I came up with the idea of, well, I knew with the food part, having done so many murals in schools and seeing with my own eye, like getting there in the morning and, you know, as children come in the door, people asking, you know, teachers and administration asking them, you know, do you need breakfast? You know, some children saying yes, some saying no. Or just seeing kids walking around with trays in the morning. Like that wasn't my experience as a child when I went to school. Only food we brought to school was our lunch. So the whole idea that children now have to not only get breakfast at school, get lunch at school, and sometimes even take a snack at home in the afternoon, and that might be their only meal that they get, is kind of mind blowing. So there was more. I think I had some paper bags lined up along the bottom underneath this, but then we just came to simplifying it to just these hands, and you're not seeing the child holding the sack. I didn't originally have the character on the right matching the character that you saw on the left, but I wanted to give them a personality, but I also purposely had them looking away because one, I didn't want to show their identity because it could be anybody, but also where are they looking? So that gave the opportunity to see where is this child going later on with this sack lunch and where are they sitting. And, you know, when I thought about this, and this is just for what people can have conversations with the children, but yeah, a shelter isn't, it's security in the sense that you're not outside, but it's not your own home and your own bed and your own space. And so I thought that fit with the words of not having, you know, a bed to go to sleep home at night. Because in my mind, you know, ideally, I think people want to go to a place that they can call theirs. And this wouldn't be the case. But so this spread we worked on back and forth a little bit. And then just because I love text in my murals, that's how we came up with some words. And in those, we switched out back and forth. I put some words in there like, nah, let's go with community, family. So we did a little tug of war, but then we wound up with this. And, you know, and it's kind of cool when you struggle so hard to come up with an idea and you don't know where to go with it. And then we finally come to an agreement, and then they let me go and color it, and then they just say yes. And it's just like on the money, man. So, you know, this was a mental challenge to get to this page, but we did it, and I like how it turned out. Okay, this one really enjoyed, and this one took some time to get to too, because you have this. So imagine that as a white piece of paper. I have no idea what's going to be in the foreground, what's going to be in the background. But when it was talking about a world, I immediately thought Wally World. I thought about Six Flags. So the carnival thing came up immediately because one, and they might have also co-signed or brought it up too, that this could be an opportunity to show a bunch of people. I think we even mentioned having it be a picnic or just some scene where there could be lots of people. And so we came up with this. And then as I researched carnivals and theme parks and state fairs, the first thing I noticed with state fairs was all the signs about the food that they were offering. And then, so I didn't see the food per se. What I saw was text. And I thought with that, we had the opportunity to play with words to envision what this place looked like, where everybody's welcome. And there are all these offerings in this space of acceptance where everybody feels like, one, they're seen, they have the opportunity to have fun, they have the opportunity to be safe. And so, yeah, this was a great page to work on. And because I did this whole thing digitally, it was nice to be able to just pull in a photo and just kind of tweak it a little bit and work on it. So I didn't have to draw every single bulb. I didn't have to, some of the words I didn't have to change. So that was great. And there's so many out there that we had to worry about getting any permission from anybody to use their photo, because this is actually a collage of many different photos that we came up together to work on this. And I was, I worried at first about the lines, but then it just became about the characters. And to give you an idea, some things that we made sure we wanted to catch in here, definitely in the bottom right corner, which always stands out to me. We wanted to make sure there was a same-sex couple here. And having done 365 Days with Dad, nobody ever knew what the gender or the family makeup of any of these dads were, because a lot of times it was just dad and children. So now to actually paint in flesh two men in a loving relationship and a child kissing one of the dads, and it had Proud Dad 365 on the shirt. I felt really good about doing that. We actually spent quite a bit of time on this young man with the striped shirt and their parent holding the respect cup, because the signals they're making, there was a lot of back and forth on that. If I didn't have the fingers right, because they wanted to make sure that if mom or dad was signing the child, how would the child respond? So in my brain, I'm like, okay, it's the illustration. If the parent is saying something immediately, is the kid actually reacting right off the bat? So do they have to have, a reaction? But they wanted to make sure that, somebody could see this and it would click that, okay, they're talking about the deaf community as well. So we had that. We had the young man all the way in the back in the walker, and the person holding the large unicorn stuffed animal has prosthetic leg. And if people haven't picked up on it, the young lady being embraced has a piece in her ear. So yeah, we just want to make sure that we touched on, okay, so if this is a welcoming environment, who all is welcome? So trying to hit a little bit of everybody. So this is definitely a contender for my favorite.
Mine too. This is high on the list.
Yes. And the young lady who came with Ibram Kendi, as soon as she walked in the room the other day at the signing, she walked right up to me and grabbed the book. She's like, I must show you my favorite page. And that's the one she went to. Yeah.
Excellent.
So this one here was very exciting. So the way this page happened, I had no idea where we were going to go with this. And so actually, while the book was being constructed, and the deadline wasn't immediate, but it was coming up. So actually in Iowa, doing the murals at Nicole Hannah Jones 1619 Freedom School After School program. So I was up there doing that project. And so on the way back, was listening to the podcast on Spotify. And the one that we played often was the one about farming. And so if you can imagine driving back from Iowa to St. Louis, you definitely see a lot of farmland. And so just looking at it at face value, it's farmland. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes it's cool with all the animals. And just, of course, I'm drawn to the different lines and patterns. But we knew it was a nighttime scene. And I want to say that they mentioned this would be a cool opportunity to do some kind of landscape. Okay, all right, is it an urban landscape? Is it a city landscape? Because it seems like a lot of stuff in the book, they aren't really seen heavy where you know where they are, but it definitely felt more urban. So if you could pull more of a rural feel in. And then we're talking about unfair rules. I'm listening to this podcast about how Black farmers have been just disrespected, mistreated, abused, and everything else in this country. And actually how farming in general is just kind of whack in the way they're treated. I was definitely like, okay, well, I know what I'm gonna start from. And I got excited about the idea of doing that fence line with the highlights on it coming down from the right page into the middle. But also, okay, so where could there be light in here? And so I wanted to show that they're separate but still connected. So in the foreground is all farmland, but in the distant in the distant background is an urban scene. And so I thought that'd be cool to add some light hitting as a silhouette behind the buildings. And then, of course, it had the moon in there. So this is one time where I wanted to make sure the moon still stayed in the illustration. And I think it was a lot bigger at some point, but then we shrunk it down and got to play with the pattern in the background. And so this one was, I had no idea this was going to come to me, and this might not have come had I not taken that trip and gotten that job up in Iowa. So just never know how things are going to work. Everything just kind of lined up. Maybe we got one more. And then hopefully y'all have some questions so we can talk.
Oh, I have plenty of questions.
That's
okay. Awesome.
That's all the slides that I have.
Oh, okay. I thought we went through them a lot faster than I thought. I think you're right.
Okay. Yeah. Like I can hold up a picture of one that if you want to discuss another one. I want to tell you, like, these illustrations are just beautiful. Like, the thought that you put into them and just the style. Like, I'm a huge fan of your style, so I think it is stunning and pairs so well with the words of this book.
Yeah, I don't think people know how much it takes. It takes so much energy to do a book because one, as soon as you get it, you're obsessing over it. Like what on earth is this going to look like? So even when I'm not working on that book and I'm drawing and painting and filling the orders, I'm still working on the book. So it's
it's
always so it's always present until it's finished. Always. Like when they come back with like that doesn't work, and it's like, oh shoot, so okay, you gotta throw that out the door. Like, how else can I approach this page? And then luckily if you have a great design team, they're like, try this. And it's like, didn't think about that. They don't give you the layout, they just give you an idea of what might work as a theme or direction. And I can definitely say that they've been really great to work with on that. Like there was never just throw it out the water to start over. It was a throw it out the water and come back with an idea how to tweak it, change it, what might work from this that you can keep, but let's give it a rest and try from this direction. And yeah, they were really pretty open, and I'm very grateful that it wasn't too much back and forth. Like I eventually caught on to what they wanted and what they were looking for, and we were able to make it happen.
Excellent. So I'm curious, is illustrating this book, how different is illustrating this book from doing a mural on the side of a building? How different is that than doing a portrait or on a canvas? Do you attack them the same way?
I definitely attack it the same way I do murals. Not necessarily portraits, because the portraits, just from the photo I'm usually working on. Even when people say, here's a picture, but do whatever you want. I mean, I don't. I'm not going to work myself that hard because I already know if I just take your photo and I paint it freely, it's already going to be stylized. So I don't need to go anywhere but that. But when I get a mural, it's kind of the same thing. And it's in terms of like Nicole's like, they sent me a few pictures and a few quotes. And they're like, after that, you're good. We trust you. And even Deaconess Foundation, they're like, here's your walls. See you when you drop it off. But most of the schools, we've had Zoom calls, we'll have phone calls. They'll send an email with a list of all the things that they'd love to see. And of course, there's no way I can do 80 things. So I got to figure out ways to combine them all. But it's kind of the same way here. Like, luckily with this, when we got the text, it was broken up into pages. So I knew what words went with each page. But it's like you can see some pages were wordier, some only had 7 words. It's like, you want a 2-page spread and it's just 7 words. It's like, wow, like, sky's the limit. And honestly, it's like that with the murals too. Like there's a million possibilities. So I have to remind myself, just do it. Don't worry about, is this the way to do it? Which is usually the block. Like, is this the way to do it? Like, no, there's many ways. Just do it. Like this won't be your last time. Like I had to remind myself too, take this page, take these words and apply it to a painting later if you want to see what else you could have done off of that. But get the book done, man.
Yes, because it does have to get out.
Absolutely.
That's very interesting. I do. I appreciate that. That's a good way of looking at it. I'm sure we can extrapolate that to pretty much everything.
Just get done. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be the way, but it should be
done.
If
I die tomorrow, did I do the book right? You know, that's kind of how I go. That's how extreme sometimes I get. It's like, just relax. Nobody knows what it's supposed to look like, so there's no wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a reason they tapped you to do it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of pressure.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Like, man, they could have got anybody. This is Ibram. They can't even eat. Like, I can't mess this up.
No, I get anxious when I had to paint my walls. It's like, is this the right color? And the blank wall was just staring at me, beating down on me. So I can only imagine if you had to actually do things with it.
Yes. And I told Shane earlier, like, folks, this is the very first time I am in my brand new gallery and studio. And so mentioning that, I could just stay here frozen, or I got to just start putting screws on the wall and hanging work. Like, I can't worry about it. Should this one be in the middle, or like, just put it up, man. This is day one. It can change a million times. Just get the stuff off the floor.
Any journey starts with one step.
That's it. It's never nothing. You can't do anything beyond that. You just got to start.
Yeah.
I have a question about scale. So you do giant, humongous murals, and you have this picture book. And I'm wondering, did the picture book start off as humongous illustrations and then work its way down into picture, like page size? Or do your murals start out as page size pictures and turn into giant murals?
I do my mural sketches on my iPad, which is where I did this book. So they start off the same size. That's interesting too that you mentioned that, because when I'm working on a mural, to look at this little screen, I think my iPad is 9x12. And so you're thinking about a 20-foot mural. I had to remind myself, okay, I'm gonna draw this character. The character might be 5 feet tall, but this is supposed to represent 20 feet on this iPad. So sometimes I have to go up to a wall and look at it and be like, okay, draw the thing a whole lot smaller, and you still have a lot of room. Sometimes I can't tell that looking on the iPad. So it is kind of a mental game that I have to go through with that. But also, even with this children's book, I sometimes I had to go get other books to look at. I'm like, wow, let me see how much room is in that layout. Like, because I can't really tell. Even though I have the dimensions on my iPad, I still can't really see how much room I have, because the book is wider than the amount of space I have on my iPad. And so I'm blowing up my screen and I'm just working on a section and I'm shrinking it down. But also I have to remind myself too, while I'm working on it, like, because sometimes I blow it up too much and I'm doing all this little detail, but then I have to like, wait a minute, nobody's gonna see that. Like the kid eating the corn in the very beginning of that one page, like, I have her blown up because I'm loving the details, and it's like, wait a minute, well, she's not the only thing on the page. So shrink it down and dial back a little bit so that you don't create something with that character that you have to do on the whole rest of the page. Like, I gotta think about all these things. But no, it's pretty similar working on both the same. And everybody's saying ginormous. Like, I mean, I-64 was ginormous. Even that, that was bananas. But a lot now I'm getting so used to the murals that they don't feel ginormous.
Yeah.
Like, where other people are like, wow, you're gonna do that whole wall? It's like, yeah, that take a week.
When you've battled the giant monsters, everything just it's all commonplace.
I love it now. I'm getting used to it. So it's a trip how your brain adjusts. Yeah.
Were you a reader when you were a kid?
Not heavily, and still not heavily now. I'm very much into Audible.
Which is
I listen to my books. I bought a few. But I can remember reading White Fang from beginning to end without putting it down, which is a weird memory, but I don't know why that book. But yeah, there are a few that I can remember. I think I read Color Purple. So I read a few, but yeah, I was never a really heavy reader.
Okay. And so I imagine you were, the art is a lifelong passion for you. as a kid? Were you sketching? Were you painting?
I did sketch. I wouldn't say art is lifelong. It came pretty easy, even though I didn't really think about it till college. But I could do it. But I wasn't. But I've always been visual. And where I think some people watch TV just for the sake of watching TV all the time. Like I watch TV and I'm seeing stuff all the time. Like I'm still very visual. Like I just got YouTube Premium because I'm a YouTube junkie. And I mean, seriously, I love documentaries. I love watching artists talk. And so now that I know I can with YouTube Premium, because sometimes I watch things so much that I can just listen to it and see it. And so YouTube Premium, I can turn my phone off and still listen to it. So yeah. So I spend a lot of time looking at a lot of imagery, looking at a lot of movies, looking at a lot of cartoons. Pixar is great because that definitely gives a way to look at how things are stylized, how things are simplified. Yeah. So no, I didn't read a lot. I wasn't really heavy in art, but it was always there. But yeah, it was always there.
I mean, you talked a lot about representation when you were talking about your illustrations, and representation. This book is a part of a movement of making representation in children's books something that kids can at a young age find themselves in, which will bolster and encourage and allow children to imagine themselves in the book because they can see people that look like them in the book, people that feel like them in the book. And people of our generation did not get access to a large portion of books that we could see ourselves in. And it's very important what your book is doing.
Yeah. And it was cool. This book came right while I've been deep and heavy in doing these murals. So it felt like I'd already been working on the book. So when I got it and you talked about the subjects that were going to be covered in there and the things you wanted to see, I was already there. So it's like, how do I take what I've been doing on walls and schools and taking it here? But it also opened it up a little bit more. Like being real conscious. And I had one experience in one school where I did an Asian child on a wall. I think it was in Kirkwood. And I didn't think anything of it. I drew it, I drew their eyes the way I drew their eyes. But then I got second wind from somebody else saying that such and such, one of the teachers who happens to be the Asian descent, was like, those eyes are real stereotypical. And I didn't think anything of it, but it was a good reminder that I'm doing what I love, but I'm also serving, and I want everybody to feel seen and feel respected. So I didn't feel any kind of way about it because, one thing is, I believe that, if you're doing something with good intention and your intention is to represent people and somebody comes to you with something, you don't get defensive, just have a conversation. And so she was like, you put the same eyes you have on all the other children, that would be great. And nobody else had anything else to add to it. So I took her word and I changed it. She came around. She didn't really say anything. She just kind of made a nod or whatever. But I just felt good that we didn't just blow it off. Like I told them, right now it's just lines on paper. This is for you guys. So if somebody feels something, they need to come say something to me. I'm totally open. I won't get offended because people always worry about, there's no sign or anything on my back that says that I'm right. What I do is the word. Like, no, I'm here I'm continuing to grow and learn myself. So that experience there and working on this book, like the religious scene, we went a little bit back and forth on that too, because I was like, okay, who's always represented? Who can we represent? So I thought about the child with the beads, because I don't know how much we see. We don't see a lot of Buddhism. But I also had a native dancer on there that got pulled out because they're like, it's a real slippery slope because if the beads are represented by one group, but the head rest is somebody else. I mean, even though we didn't say we represented any particular tribe, they're like, look, let's just leave that alone because that's just real touchy right now, especially with all the, all the fights and everything over, mascot, which it's pretty dope that Cleveland finally got rid of the Indian. So, it's like, yeah. So this is definitely a good tool in my tool belt. And being more open-minded to actually look at how I sketch. Because when I just sketch my characters, body type, head shape, everything is almost all the same. I'm not thinking about it until somebody like, we need some different body types in there. We need a prosthetic. We need glasses. So, yeah.
All right. Brian is asking, so he says, my 11-year-olds are saying the book is beautiful and really cool. They're asking, how would you describe your art style?
Ooh. I used to well, I still don't. At one point, I came up with the word emotion, which I just said meant lion, light, and emotion. I don't know how that makes sense, but I was just trying to think of something to come up with. But yeah, I think I'm a combination of a lot of things. I definitely am inspired by the color and just the flow of graffiti. I'm definitely inspired by children's books. My style really changed when I had my own children and reading to them and just looking at the pictures in here and be like, wow, this is dope. So that affected the way I draw. And so the characters and the color, and then I look at a lot of abstract work too. And so I'm kind of just trying to figure out a way to blend all that together. So that's what you get here. You don't have so much of the abstract in here, maybe with the landscape scene. But there's definitely influence from other children's book illustrators and cartoons I've seen over the years. They have a big influence on the way I work. Yeah, always growing and changing. So, yeah, we'll see how the next book looks. Yeah.
Yeah, and what a book looks when you are doing the words, when they're your words, followed by your illustrations, because it's, once you start and finish the process, I'm sure it'll be its own thing wholly and complete.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see, man.
I want to remind the audience watching that, like Brian did, just type up any questions that you might have in the comment section. We still have quite a bit of time left, and we have a lot of time to answer questions.
Yeah, please do. Like I said, this was a year-long process. When I thought they were almost done with the editing, they were like, they sent me a book at, I want to say it was like 75, 80%. And they let me know that some words may change, but they wanted me to get started. And the process usually is, so if folks don't know, just to give a little bit of idea how this works. So they give me the text, and before anything's done, we just start with sketches. And some artists are very loose, almost like stick figure style, just to give an idea of the layout of the page in their mind. I went a little bit further than that because I just wanted to jump in. So I just I didn't really flesh out the characters completely, but at least give an idea of where they would look. So we did that at first. And because they asked me how I was going to execute this book, and I told them I was going to do it on my iPad, there's a page with the young lady with the red bun looking out the window, or the kids dancing in the silhouette of the moon. They wanted me to take one page and do it completely fleshed out so they could see how the digital representation of my work reflected what they had seen in my paintings, and make sure that it still lined up. So once I submitted that page to them, they felt real comfortable when we were doing the whole book digitally. But even that, once I did that, I still pushed that. I still didn't give them the page at 100%. I still added a little bit more vibrancy and move things around a little bit for the final product. So, yeah, even in this was a process, because when I got my iPad, I knew if I get children's books, just because of landfills, and I don't want to have a book sitting around if nobody wants to buy the illustrations. So I'd much rather do something in my iPad where it's not taking up space and I don't throw anything away. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's still your style, and it's still representative of the work you do.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, is there I don't know, was there anyone who nurtured this love of art? that you had. It seems like you really fell into it in college, based on what you said earlier. But is there someone who pushed you, who told you you could do this? This is a thing that you are well suited for, or did you kind of just fall into it?
My mom she always supported, encouraged me drawing. They just want me to stay busy. So, I mean, she was always in administration at Scott Air Force Base. So she would bring me reams of paper, and all the papers connected from the computer back in the day. She would bring me packs of those to just draw on. The little penguin, was the penguin? What's the parrot, the turtle, and the pirate? Little online school ads that used to come on TV all the time. I think I ordered those like 3 times. Never worried about actually trying to get into school if there was ever such a thing. But did that. She helped me get into a few art shows. So my mom's always been supportive from day one. And yeah, even when I said I was going to major in art at college, there was never any concern of, that it's not going to work out. It was just like, okay, that's what you're going to major in. So yeah, she's just always been supportive. And yeah, once I got to college, once I went to Grambling, I was done. I was like, okay, this is going to be my life.
And hit the ground running.
Yeah, my professors saw it. They were very supportive. Even took me to DC on a trip. So I've definitely had a lot of support. People saw that I was taking this serious.
Excellent. Yeah. So can you chart the evolution of your style, or is there a through line, or does it you just leave you just take on bits as you go? Because you said your style is ever growing. So I'm just curious if you can see a through line from your first day to now.
My first job was at Six Flags as a caricature artist. That definitely influenced the way I drew people. And so I went from that to doing portraits, and the portraits I thought were super realistic, I was still reminded often that, no, these are very much caricatures. And so that helped me get into, taking a photo, because at first I always use photos as reference, and I still do. But I'm getting more and more at a point where I can just do a drawing or painting without looking at something when I want to. But that definitely had a huge influence on my work. And then, of course, like I said earlier, children's books definitely was another switch. When St. Louis got the Chapunga exhibit at Missouri Botanical Gardens, I can't even remember how long ago that was. That definitely was a marker on my creative journey, because I started painting the faces the way I do, and the planes of color and the lines and the hard lines. That came from seeing that sculptural excellence. And then once I learned how to spray paint and watching videos of, graffiti artists and muralists and how they're using the can. So, I mean, all these things have merged. So 365 Days of Dad, I would say, is definitely fall under the line of looking at children's book illustrations and just the style, simplifying it. And trying to think. Yeah, so I could see, if I had to, I could definitely document and see how things have changed based on what was going on in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
For those unfamiliar, because we've talked about the 365 Days of Dad, or 365
Days with Dad. You're right.
Okay, I'm like, wait, I feel like I am. Still waking up. Can you talk about that project and what it was, like how it has brought you to kind of where you are now as well? Because I know we talked about it, but I don't think we talked about what entirely the project was.
Yeah, I started that project in 2012. That's when I don't even think Instagram was. It was either not around. I wasn't really aware of it when I first started the project, but it was before Instagram really took off. So I started on Facebook and was looking for a way to make money just off my art strictly, and wanted to do an art project. And so came up with the theme of fatherhood for it. And so I just asked people to send me photos, I had no idea how this was going to work. I just planned on doing a painting every day, putting it up, people buying it. And then almost immediately became a commission-based project where folks started requesting dates and paying me in advance. And so, yeah, within months after the year was gone, it was already paid up, which is insane. And everybody can see that on my website. They can see all the photos that I did. And some of them were really fast and some of them were it was a hard project, but it was also the best thing I could have ever done. One, it made me real comfortable with myself and to just work and trust myself. And two, it made people look at me differently. Like before I was doing that, I didn't really get asked to speak. I didn't get asked what my feelings were on anything political happening. But after I did that project, I think people saw me in a different light. And I could say the majority of the murals that I got, a lot of times people are like, man, that 365, wow. And you're like, we just knew we had to get you. So, and these are people who are just now finding out about it. So that project has had a huge impact on my career, huge. And luckily I just did it without thinking about how hard it was going to be and how insane. And that's kind of how I work. I'm like, I get an idea and I just jump out the window with it. Like, I'm going to land.
Yeah, a little bit of naivete is good. It makes you say yes to a lot more stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I bet it's also really hard to be like, I have to work every day this year? Oh, like no days off?
I thought it'd be no big deal. I mean, I did wall ball a few times, so how could it be just do wall ball every day? Yeah. So yeah, it took 2 years, 787 days to finish.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this has been such an incredible pleasure. I want to remind the audience watching that we are trying so hard to get this book to the #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. We do have signed copies available at left-bank.com. You can call as well. And right now we do have copies that are signed both by Dr. Kendi and Cbabi. So those are while supplies last. And I will say that they are dwindling quickly because we sold so many at our event on Tuesday with Dr. Kendi and Cbabi and Dr. Kira Banks. This book is stunningly beautiful and should be on everyone's bookshelf.
Absolutely. I'm very proud of this. So I look forward to more signings coming and whatever is happening. So.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, goodness. Now that I know you're willing to work every day for a year, I'm gonna put you to work.
Right.
We're going on the
road. Sounds good. Nice.
This was fantastic. Thank you so much for doing this. I've seen you around. I've seen you doing murals, but it is wonderful to hold your work in my hands, especially married to Dr. Kendi's words. And yeah, I appreciate all that you do. It's good.
Cliff,
thank you. I
we want to talk just a tiny bit about River City Readers before we close out.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Everyone watching, this is our summer fundraising for our River City Readers program. We use River City Readers to work with schools in the St. Louis Public School District where the kids don't necessarily have access to books. So using this program, we buy books 5 times a year for kids to take home and bolster their home libraries, because books in the home they make everything better. If this book was in the home of every child, the world would be a much better place. And it's a program that we absolutely love. We have been doing it for years now, and we can only do it with the support of our customers, our community partners, the people who want to see us do well and who want to see literacy and justice spread to everyone. So you can donate anywhere from 50 cents at the register to $1 bajillion, which I would put to great use. If you have $1 bajillion, I swear to you, I will use it well. You can do this on our website. You can call the bookstore. You can send me an email directly. Every bit of support does help, and it does make a change. And the website should be in the comments.
Shared. Yep.
Excellent.
All right. Well, do you want to answer one more question? We had another audience question. I know we did like the whole closeout thing, but
go for it.
Okay. I don't know where you are off to next. Tammy's asking, or says, "Thank you for your beautiful work. I love wearing my dad t-shirt. Do you have any advice?" There are two questions. So first question, do you have any advice for young artists? And do you have any advice for teachers who might love to share the book, but the political climate in their area might make it difficult?
Ooh, the second one, I don't know where to go with that. That's very interesting on how to adjust that. As far as young artists, I would just say be open to trying anything and everything, because you don't know what's going to connect with you. And even if something's very hard in the beginning, it might be that thing that is going to be your jam. Because when I first tried acrylic, I was terrible at it, but now I don't have any interest at all in using any other medium besides spray can, of course, which I still consider acrylic. But yeah, so you just never know what's going to work best for the way you express yourself. And it might not be painting, it might be drawing, it might be, and be careful about who you ask if they like your work, because sometimes unsolicited advice will change our direction, even if we were on the right, just doing what we want, doing what we love. So just be careful who you ask about appreciating your work, because some people, you don't know where they are, and they say things that they think are being funny, but you might hold on to forever. Because I've experienced that, where I just taken shoulds, what I should do, because a person says something to you and then they're off and they forget about it, but you're just still pondering it. So just do what you love, but be open to trying new things. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Beautiful advice. Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, this has been great. And I want to say too that the game night is definitely my favorite. One, because I love tattoos. Mom has a go-to. I have my paintings, my actual art on the wall in the background. And actually a friend of mine, Jamesa, she loves games. She plays them all the time with her kids and when she has parties. So I let her know that she's in the book. So yeah, that's probably one of my favorites.
Fantastic.
But yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. And again, thank you for inviting me to do this. This has been fun.
Such a pleasure. Like, just celebrating this book is something I want to do every day for 365 days. So,
amen.
All right. Well, have a great rest of your day, everyone, and we hope to see you again really soon.
All right. Take care.